October 18, 1984, Madison Square Garden. A rookie steps onto the court in a pair of shoes that don't belong there. Black, red, almost no white in sight. Enough to put him on a collision course with the NBA's uniform policy. Somewhere in the arena, an NBA official is watching his feet, not his hands. Within months, a letter arrives at Nike's headquarters. The league says the shoe violates its uniform policy. Nike's response isn't a lawyer, it's a commercial. Black bars roll across the screen censoring the shoes like contraband, while a voiceover declares that the NBA has banned it, and that nothing can stop you from wearing it anyway. There's just one problem. The shoe in that leather and the shoe in that commercial aren't the same shoe. One of them didn't even exist yet. This is the story of how a company stuck behind the giants of the sneaker world turned a bureaucratic footnote into the most valuable myth in sneaker history, and in doing so taught every brand that followed that the product isn't always the thing you're selling. The story you think you know about the quote-unquote banned Air Jordan isn't wrong exactly. It's just not the whole story. In 1984, the basketball shoe business belonged to two names, Converse and Adidas. Converse had the history, decades of it, stretching back to the leather high tops of the 1920s and a roster of NBA players who'd worn the brand since childhood. Adidas had the prestige, the European craftsmanship, the sense that its three stripes meant something the way a tailored suit means something. Nike had neither. The company had built its name on running shoes, waffle soles, marathoners, a counterculture jogging boom. Basketball was a side project, and not a particularly successful one either. Its basketball business lagged far behind its running division. And signature shoes, a shoe designed around a single athlete's name, style, and story, were still a relatively unproven business idea. Companies sponsored teams, they sponsored leagues, they built campaigns around small handfuls of stars. But the notion of building an entire product line around one still unproven rookie was at best untested, and at worst, a fast way to burn a marketing budget on a player who might never make it. That was the environment Nike was operating in, a company with little basketball credibility entering a market it didn't lead, with a business model, the individual athlete as a brand, that still seemed risky. Which is what makes the decision Nike was about to make so strange. Not because it was bold, because it was disproportionate. A company with a marketing budget far smaller than its rivals was preparing to devote an extraordinary share of it to one unproven rookie. To understand why, you have to meet the man who talked them into it. The man who made the case was Sonny Vaccaro, a Nike basketball marketing executive with a habit of trusting his gut over spreadsheets. Nike's basketball budget for the year was modest, reportedly around $250,000 to $500,000 to split across a roster of players over the year. Vaccaro's proposal was to abandon that model and devote the overwhelming majority to one rookie who hadn't played a single professional game. The offer was 5 years and $2.5 million. It wasn't an easy sell. Inside Nike, the idea ran against how the company had always spent its money, spread thin across many athletes to manage risk. Betting the budget on one unproven player wasn't just unconventional. It was the kind of decision that gets you fired if it doesn't work. And Jordan himself wasn't chasing Nike. By most accounts, his preference leaned elsewhere. He had ties to Converse, the brand worn by his college team, and had reportedly worn Adidas during workouts. Nike at the time wasn't known for basketball. Signing with them wasn't an obvious move for a player trying to build a serious career. In fact, Jordan reportedly wasn't even interested in making the trip to Nike's headquarters. According to multiple accounts, it was his mother, Dolores, who insisted he hear the company out. "You're gonna go listen. You may not like it," she reportedly told him, "but you're gonna go listen." What tipped the deal wasn't just the money, though the 5-year, $2.5 million offer was unlike anything a rookie had been offered before. According to several accounts, Jordan's family was directly involved in the process. His parents sat on the meetings with all three brands, and Vaccaro reportedly made a personal trip to meet them. Jordan ultimately signed. Nike had convinced him that it wasn't just offering a contract, it was offering a future built around him. The deal was done, the shoe still didn't exist. While Vaccaro closed the deal, a Nike designer named Peter Moore was handling a tough test. Build a shoe worthy of the bet, in time for training camp. There wasn't time to build an entirely new basketball shoe from the ground up. Moore's team built the shoe using existing Nike basketball technology and construction, finishing it in black, red, and white, and adding a new Wings logo. It was less a technological leap than a new presentation, but the colors weren't random. They matched the Chicago Bulls. The Air Jordan 1 wasn't ready by October October, so when Jordan took the court that preseason, he laced up a different Nike model entirely. A black and red sneaker called the Airship. It was the Airship, not the Air Jordan, that caught the league's attention. The NBA's uniform policy required players' shoes to conform to team color requirements, which in practice generally meant predominantly white shoes coordinated with the rest of the team. Jordan's Airships were neither. By early 1985, the league had sent Nike a formal letter citing the violation. Jordan continued wearing the black and red Airships anyways. The actual Air Jordan 1 didn't hit shelves until April 1985, months after the letter. By the time it launched, Nike's marketing team had already decided the shoe's origin story. Not the Airships ban, but the Jordan 1s. The commercial that followed showed the Air Jordan 1 obscured behind black censored bars, tying the NBA's uniform controversy to Nike's new signature shoe. It aired within days of the shoe's release. Nike hadn't just designed a sneaker, it had designed a myth to go with it, and attached that myth to a shoe that was never the subject of the NBA's original violation letter. Quick interruption. At the time I'm recording this video, 100% of the people that watch my death row video are non-subscribers. I have new content coming out every Thursday at 2, so if you like this video, I'm sure you'll like what's coming next. Please consider subscribing. Alright, back to the video. Nike's internal projection for the Air Jordan 1 was modest, roughly $3 million in sales spread across 4 years. It reached that number within weeks of its release. By the end of its first year, the shoe had generated an estimated $126 million, more than 40 times what Nike had projected, and more than the company's entire basketball division had done in years combined. The campaign built around it broke as many rules as the shoe itself. Nike paired Jordan with filmmaker Spike Lee, who created and starred in a series of commercials as his character Mars Blackman, a fast-talking, sneaker-obsessed superfan whose entire pitch was a single line: "It's gotta be the shoes." The ads didn't dwell on performance specs or cushioning technology. They sold identity. They sold the idea that wearing this shoe put you closer to something larger than yourself. The shoe was only half the product. The story wrapped around it was what consumers remembered. That idea didn't stay confined to basketball. Within a few years, the model Nike had built for Jordan, one athlete, one signature product line, one mythology, reshaped how much of the sporting goods industry thought about marketing. Signature shoes, a once uncommon strategy, became a far more central part to athlete marketing, especially in basketball. The Air Jordan didn't just outsell its own projections. It broke the model that had governed how sneakers, and by extension how fame itself, got sold. Before 1985, an athlete endorsed a product. After 1985, an athlete could become the brand, with the company built entirely around their name. Nike hadn't just launched a shoe, it had demonstrated that the story surrounding a product could become just as valuable as the product itself. The rest of the industry spent the decades that followed building on that idea. 4 decades later, the numbers are almost hard to process. The Jordan brand now generates roughly $7 billion in annual revenue, more than the entire revenue of most Fortune 500 apparel companies, built on a single athlete's name, decades after that athlete played his last professional game. Michael Jordan himself has earned an estimated $300 million in a single recent year, most entirely from royalties on a shoe he stopped wearing competitively in 2003. But the empire that Air Jordan built didn't just stop at Nike's balance sheet. It created an entire secondary economy, resale markets, authentication platforms, camping lines outside stores, an ecosystem where a shoe that cost $65 in 1985 can now trade for hundreds, thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars among collectors who will never play a game of basketball in them. That secondary economy has become a major business in its own right. Platforms built entirely around reselling are valued in the billions. Limited releases are treated less like retail products and more like commodities, tracked, flipped, and traded in the same instinct people bring to stocks or collectibles. It's worth pausing on that for a moment. A functional item meant to be worn on the courts, get scuffed, and break down now trades like an asset of its own. The Jordan helped transform the idea of what a sneaker could be. Not just something to wear, but something people would collect, trade, and assign lasting financial value to. And the model didn't stay contained to sneakers either. The idea Nike helped prove with Air Jordan that exclusivity paired with a story could dramatically increase a product's perceived value value became the operating logic behind streetwear drops, celebrity collaborations, and the entire hype-driven retail economy that followed. Many brands chasing line around the block launches today are in one form or another drawing from a playbook Nike helped to popularize in 1985. The Air Jordan didn't just build an empire, it rewired what an entire generation believed a product could be worth, and the rest of the market has been chasing that idea ever since. Go back to that letter for a second, the one the NBA sent over for a shoe that wasn't even the shoe everyone remembers. Strip away the myth, and what's left is smaller than the legend. A designer with weeks to work, a budget that was modest by the industry's own standards, a rookie who almost didn't take the meeting, a shoe whose story became fused with another by a marketing campaign that understood the simpler version would be the one people remembered. None of that makes the story less remarkable. It makes it more honest and more instructive. Nike didn't win simply because it out-engineered Converse or outclassed Adidas. It won because it understood something its rivals hadn't fully priced in yet. That a product is never just the object, it's the story wrapped around the object, and the story can become more valuable than the object itself. That idea didn't stay in a shoebox, it spread far beyond sneakers, shaping how countless brands built products, launched campaigns, and created demand. Many of the playbooks behind today's limited drops, celebrity collaborations, and story-driven product launches can be traced, in part, to the lesson Nike learned from that moment. The Air Jordan is still technically a shoe, rubber, leather, a sole built to survive a hardwood court. But that was never what really broke the world. What broke the world was the moment a company figured out that people don't just buy what a product does, they buy what it means. Hi, you made it to the end of the video, so let me make you an offer you can't refuse. You hit that little red subscribe button and I'll keep telling the stories behind the world's most iconic brands every Thursday at 2. Deal? Perfect. Thanks for watching and have a great day, and I'll see you next week.